Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited to talk to my guest today. I heard her do a presentation at a group that I belong to up where I live near Lake Arrowhead, and I was just blown away because I'm always looking for people that have something different to say. You know, I've been involved in metaphysics for my entire life, and so it's always unusual to find somebody that really has something unique to share. So I'm going to talk with Suzie Sandoval today, and she calls herself an inner peace organizer. I just love that. And she's going to talk about the relationship that we have with ourselves, our environment, our possessions, also known as our stuff, our things, these things that we believe we can't live without. And just as kind of an aside, I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that our society really supports the notion that we need these possessions. We're surrounded by so much stuff and noise and clutter, and you've got to have this car and you've got to wear this outfit and all of that stuff. And it's just our esteem or our value is based on how much we have. And I think that what Suzie is going to talk about really goes counter to that, because it's not about what we have. In fact, there's a book, I don't know if I'm allowed to use the SH word, but it's called Nobody Wants Your Shit. And I just love the title of it because it's so true. You know, I think about, gosh, what's going to happen when my husband and I decide to leave this planet and my son is left with all of this stuff to deal with. So, you know, there's that kind of a notion about it too. And just to also mention that I talk a lot about in my courses about how whatever it is that we have and whatever condition our possessions are in, it's symbolic of something going on inside of us. I have a great story to share later on when you're talking about this, Suzie, but it's so true. Everything is so symbolic to us. So with that in mind, let me just tell you a little bit about Suzie. She has over 15 years of professional experience helping people create sacred spaces, and I'm sure she'll talk about what that means, letting go of all that no longer serves them for good, freedom from clutter, using specialized mindfulness teachings, self-awareness, and healing modalities for positive changes inside and out. And I love how that all interconnects. And her goal is to help people create ease and flow in their life and inspire self-nurturing practices for cultivating inner peace, the most productive state of well-being. By focusing inward, and she doesn't just help you get rid of stuff, she really focuses inside to see what's going on and why you have that attachment to those things. So she helps people heal and awaken their wisdom and their intuitive guidance so that people can reclaim their personal power and experience a newfound freedom in life, joyfulness, all that good stuff that we're all trying to get. So welcome, Suzie Sandoval. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me and for that introduction. I am filled with so much passion. I look forward to kind of where the conversation is going to take us, because there's so much to unpack here just on what you started out with.
Yes, yes. Well, first of all, tell us how you got started in all this. What inspired you to go in this direction in your life?
I grew up in a very dysfunctional home, and abusive home, dysfunctional and abusive, a multi-abusive childhood. So from the get-go of coming onto this planet, um, some of my first memories were so traumatic, um, that it really shaped the course of my life from that truly very beginning of those traumatic memories. And part of what came from that was an extreme like hypervigilance of my environments, as to what is safe and what is not. I was given a lot. I was raised mostly as an only child. I had a lot of responsibility at a really young age. So I'm so blessed that I had the innate skill of organizing. And so I started out my career in my early 20s with the insignificant wound, like many people have.
Right.
And then I was fueled by needing to prove myself.
Yeah.
So I was highly ambitious, and I was kind of like, they give me 10 things and I could do them all, and I could do them all really well. But it used to be like a brag point, like, give me, I'll show you, I'll prove myself. Right. So my organizing skills really paid off when I entered into the corporate world. Because I became the resource for everyone, documents, locating documents. I became just a go-to person. I naturally have the ability to pick up things and then train others on how to do what I just learned. And so, I really got to the point where in my corporate environment, I was burnt out. It wasn't. It was everything on the outside that I loved and that felt successful, but on the inside there was emptiness. And I had made a huge leap of faith to go back to school in my 30s. And it was wonderful going back to college in my 30s because I had so much life experience. And the school that I went to was very much made for adults, and taking your life experiences and bring that into the classroom based on what we were studying. And so, not even realizing, about 6 months into my schooling, I was given a task by a professor to write a 5-year future plan. And I
Oh, wow.
knew I always had this ability of organizing. And it gave me a blank canvas to put your dreams out there. And I was like, okay, if I'm really, really going to be honest, I want to start an organizing business and add life coaching to it, because I knew I automatically had gifts. I didn't need any training. It was natural, intuitive abilities that I had originally for survival, which became extremely invaluable in the corporate world because I was extremely productive and efficient and functional, all the things that corporate loves. And so when it got to the point of um, uh, really writing that paper, I decided I was going to jump on the bandwagon and go along with it. And so the rest of my schooling, I was going to school while I was working full time in a property management business leadership career. And I was then starting the beginnings of my business plan while I was going to school. So like my marketing class, I would work on my marketing business plan and so on and so forth. And by the end of my schooling, one of the students that I'd gone to school with for a few years was a mother of 4, and she was going to school and working full time. And so she became my first client. We organized her entire home. She brought family members over. I kind of project managed. I taught them all the steps. And by the end of the day, she had an organized home and much more supportive of this massively busy lifestyle. And it gave me all those good juju feelings of that's the great thing about organizing physically, is that you see the results pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's initially what inspired. It really was just a culmination of writing this paper, going back to school. The industry that I was in property management was getting burnt out. I was getting exhausted. and Organize Zen is the name of my business, which was birthed. And it really was about creating work-life harmony and discovering what that would be like, because I knew I was carrying some workaholic traits, and I knew that that wasn't going to be sustainable. And so this business has become like a baby to me, like a kid, like it's taught me so much, and it's allowed me to grow in ways that I wouldn't have been able to without it. And then I get to share that. I say, I'm the ultimate client. I'm the extreme. I've also seen, being in the property management industry, I've seen a gazillion homes. I've worked with clients as young as 5, as wise as 95. So I've seen the impact of clutter and disorganization, how it comes in very early, and just so much, the psychology, our behavior, our relationship with our things, our relationship with our environments. And through that process, I've just learned a lot. About clutter and about decluttering in the most efficient, timely manner, but also that's sustainable so it doesn't keep coming back. So I had to do a lot of research on what clutter actually is.
Yeah.
When I first started working with my clients, we would declutter and then it would keep coming back.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not in business of it coming back because we have more spaces to do.
Right.
So
yeah.
I really went deeper and started interviewing my clients and successful people in my life. And I asked them 5 questions. But the first 2 were, what does clutter mean to you and how is it affecting your life? And all the different responses that I collected, it was like my scientific method that clutter is not healthy for us, is really what the statement was. It doesn't contribute to our joy. And through that discovery, I discovered there's actually 7 types of clutter, and I discovered what clutter is in that process. So we should start out with, what is clutter? You want to? What is clutter, right?
Yeah,
So clutter is really simple. Clutter is anything that blocks your flow in life and the joy in you. It's that simple.
What do you mean by flow? Let's get a little more.
So that's going to be where you're in a state of being of receptivity, and you're also in a state of being where you're present and you're contributing to that receptivity. So there's like it's like a dance with creation. You're co-creating, and it can often feel like surfing on a wave when you're catching a flow, or when you're skiing or snowboarding and you're on the snow and you're meeting that nature and Mother Earth just at that point where it's indescribable, but there's that connection with something greater than ourselves. Flow is a result of feeling good and functioning. Those are the 3 aspects, which we'll get into, of a sacred space. You got to feel good first in your body. Then you can address what's functioning and what's not functioning. And once you do that, you're removing the clutter. And now you're just in this natural rhythm, natural flow, like nature, the natural cycles, like the moon, the natural cycles, the natural intelligence. You're becoming in sync with it rather than in resistance.
Oh, I have so many questions. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
So theoretically, just to kind of play off what you're saying, somebody could be in flow, but also have a lot of clutter. Is that feasible?
No, the clutter blocks the flow. So clutter is anything that blocks the flow and the joy in you. It blocks it. It's interesting because when I first started organizing, I really had my spiritual awakening about a year, and then about 3 years into it. First about a year, and then I had 3 more. And what happened was I had gotten in a minor car accident, and I was really frustrated with my business. I felt like I was really being of service, and but the clients weren't coming in, and I was really frustrated for the effort that I was putting in. And I just was having conversations with God, like, I don't get it, like the tantrum. I'm like, something is off. Something's not working. Yeah. I get in this minor car accident, and I ended up for about a year working with a chiropractor and a massage therapist. And it was fascinating because my friend was a chiropractor, owned the business. It was called like Zen massage or something. So our Zen businesses were already in alignment. And it wasn't just a normal massage. It was energy. It was therapeutic. So they were starting to get into my body on a cellular level. And I was like having nightmares and dreams and all these emotions coming up. Like, what is going on? And then I was doing the chiropractor treatment, which is all about getting your spine alignment, right? Alignment. And I'll never forget when he weighed me, he would have two different scales. He'd have me put my left foot on the one scale and my right foot on the other scale to see how balanced I was.
Oh, wow.
And so that really introduced me to energy work. So then I started getting into chakras and energy work, and I started realizing the magnitude of when I was coming into client spaces, into their clutter, I was taking on that energy. And that's when I started eventually kind of looking at everything as energy, like Feng Shui. It wasn't just about removing the clutter. It was really the fact that it was a heavy energy. Like you're saying, what is it representing? What is it symbolizing? And that really began the work of realizing, oh my gosh, this is a divine business I have, which is when we remove the clutter, we are more in alignment with the cycles of the universe. We are more in alignment and receptive to something greater than ourselves. But when there's clutter all around, you can't even see what's right in front of you. Opportunities are missed because the clutter, like you said, represents the inner clutter. So if there's a whole bunch of clutter and distractions, you're missing opportunities. You're missing being present with your loved ones. You're missing the ability to slow down and really connect with your spaces. Our spaces love us. Our environments, they're so happy when they're supporting us. We have a bunch of clutter and their dysfunction. It's almost like the home is sad. Like, that's what I feel like. It's not just like, I'm an empath. I'm a highly sensitive empath. So I'll touch the walls and I'll talk to them and I'll give love to the space. Like, that's just, consciousness is in everything for me. And that's something that I awaken with my clients, is sharing my perspective of the beauty, the gift of our spaces, and how we often look at our spaces from like an archetype perspective. Like, that's your bedroom, that's your living room, versus bringing in more of a designer and a feng shui. Like, your bedroom represents the relationship you have with yourself and your family and your significant other, and your kitchen represents the hearth of the home and what you're nourishing yourself. So it completely more intentionality with the spaces, rather than just, this is my house and I'm just normal, it's just used to it. And the familiarity just gets people in a complacency where they don't even see the clutter anymore. They don't see the blocks. And so then they're not even aware that they're not present, that they're missing the opportunities that are right in front of them. So it's a fascinating transformational process. And I started out with the organizing of the physical, but I realized, because I'm someone that goes really deep to get to the root of the problem of the clutter, then I got into the kind of like the sibling of my business, which is called Soul Zen. Organized Zen is the outer, Soul Zen is the inner. So we've got to organize the mind. We've got to clear the mind. We've got to get the heart in order. That's what I started using, the chakra system, and then incorporating sound healing because my clients, they deal with clutter, and a whole bunch of trauma can come up, and a whole bunch of just things that they may not want to see. And so having essential oils and sound healing and ways to be able to move that energy on the inside as the outside is changing, and vice versa. Like you said, they both working inward first, but when I first started my business, I was working outward first. So now it's inward, and then it's also, when we do work on the outer spaces, it's really these methodologies that honor the space and honor the belongings, and even a process to honor the clutter and thanking it for serving us up until now, like honoring it, so that it's much easier to let go of something when you've left it in a positive way. If you let go of something and there's still negative energy, you really haven't let go of it.
Right.
So a lot of my processes are very mindful in that way, so that when you let go, you know, you're freed of it and you're free of new space coming in.
Yeah. Wow. So, again, I have so many questions. I have a very dear friend who is a hoarder, and we're talking major hoarder. And the last time I saw the inside of her house, it wasn't just things, it was piles of newspaper, it was junk, it was trash, things like that. You know, and you would meet this person and you would never think that they were living like that. It's just so bizarre. Just, you know, and she's organized, she's brilliant, she has a great job, you know, she's beautiful, all of that stuff, and yet her house is just filled with trash. What do you do in situations like that?
It's so fascinating because it's like that's really all I've known is working with clients behind closed doors in their shame and working with them. I don't work with hoarders. I've had some projects and I realized it was not a fit for the kind of work I do. So I would often refer them because it's a much working with the hoarder is highly psychological. It is spiritual as well, but at that level, you got to meet people. I've learned this in my work. You have to meet people where they are, not where you want them to be.
Yeah.
I was called to. I'm used to ambition. I'm used to working around people that like to be efficient. So my clients were number one were moms, and they were entrepreneurs. They were creatives because creatives like to work in chaos, and artists. Which is great when you want to be creative, but when you want to be productive, you've got to be organized. But to talk a little bit on your friend, what's really fascinating, what always fascinated me in the beginning about organizing was this question. It was like my first inspired TEDx talk, which keeps like, it's a different title now, but the first one that I was inspired to do is really this question of, why do we self-sabotage? Like, what's behind that? What's behind the self-sabotage? What's underneath that? For someone that's a hoarder, it's fascinating because they're comforted by that suffocation. What's really odd is if you go back into the childhood, you start looking at the narrative and the habits and the bedroom of the childhood, and you learn more about the dynamics of the family, of the home, and the childhood. It makes sense. It makes sense why this, ended up being a hoarder situation. But it's really odd. A lot of it is really they're comforted by that stuff. I've been where you have to like scoop by and squeeze and not knock things over, and there's an incredible amount of shame. Shame is, we talk about fear a lot in our society. I would actually say shame is probably, they're kind of in the same realm, but I would almost say shame is really, really what our collective has repressed behind closed doors. Yeah. And is our greatest opportunity for transformational change within and our environments, within our community. Because that was kind of a shock for me, working behind closed doors and really having this compassion with my clients, seeing them in their depth and just really bringing a positive energy. Like, it's okay. We're going to get you through this.
Yeah.
My students are very supportive and very compassionate. It's more of, just really bringing compassion rather than judgment, because that's what perpetuates the clutter and perpetuates the shame.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you talked about creative people. I'm a creative person. My husband is an artist. I was an art major in college, and we owned a gallery for 21 years. And so I find that the greatest comfort and joy comes from having a lot of art and creativity around me. And when we moved up here, I got rid of probably 3/4 of it, but I kept those things that were so meaningful to me. And every time I look at them, I think, oh, I remember who did them, and I remember the process, and I remember everything about them, and it brings me so much joy. So, and everything is organized in my house. I think it's organized. Somebody else might walk in and go, oh man, you've got so many things. But to me, they're all meaningful. So how does that fit with what you do?
Even as you're describing it, it's exactly what I'm looking at when I'm working with my clients. I'm looking at seeing what lights them up.
Yeah.
Because there's one of the beautiful gifts of decluttering and organizing and creating sacred spaces is the self-discovery and the self-witnessing that comes. It's a very much discovering what it is you love and what no longer serves you.
Yeah.
It's a breath that I teach right now, which is very prominent, which is breathing in your yes, exhaling your yes, breathing in your yes, exhaling your no. Really getting stronger in what your yes is, embodied more in that, and honoring it, and honoring what your no is. Because I will tell you, one of the major factors working with the mothers of what contributed to clutter and chaos was they would say yes when they meant no, and they would say no to things that were actually yeses to them. They were really out of alignment. So going back to everything being energy, I'm looking at what lights you up and giving you tools so you can. I'm a mirror for most of my clients in the beginning. I'm a mirror, and I'm a teacher of my perspective, how to see things differently. That's what we do for each other. We help see each other. I bring in a fresh perspective. I'm highly creative, and so I have constant inspiration and ideas for positive changes. That's really easy. But being able to work with people, some people have a very fast lifestyle and a busy lifestyle. Some people have a very slow lifestyle. So I'm also tuning into their rhythm of life and their habits and their tendencies, whole sorts of stuff, so that ultimately we're creating environments that are intuitive and that they can find what they need under a minute. Anything. Yeah. Under a minute. That's my like intention for all my clients. That's my goal is to be able to find anything in under a minute.
Yeah, because I read on your website something using the word minimalist, and to me that would be torture. I've walked into people's homes and they've got a couch and a table and a TV, and I'm like, how can you not live with creativity and art around you? That would just, like I said, be torture. So
is that what your experience is? That makes me curious. What's torturous about it to you? Besides so you mentioned not having the creativity in the art. There's
no beauty. It's just a couch, So this is
a good time to talk about what minimalism actually is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of misconception about what minimalism actually is.
Yes.
And most people, when they hear that word, just like they hear organizer, declutter, they want to run. Don't make me get rid of my things, right? But honestly, minimalism, I became a minimalist during my organizing career because I saw how clutter was affecting people's lives. Yeah. Minimalism has changed my life. Minimalism is like the most luxurious way to live. It's the most freeing way to live. Here's why. Because the whole notion of minimalism is that you prioritize your needs over your wants. That's it.
Okay.
Minimalism isn't, I don't have artwork. Minimalism is, does this feed my need first and foremost? It's a very abundant, it's actually, most people are living in scarcity. Minimalism is actually an abundant mindset and abundant lifestyle. Okay. Total flip in what we think. So Yeah. So instead of having excess, you have what you need when you need it. Easy to find everything. You're not at a loss, and you're able to be resourceful and use what you have if you don't have something.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a way to trust that your intuition, that you have exactly what you need.
Yeah, which could include lots of art.
Exactly.
Okay. So we need to take a little bit of a break. I'm talking to Suzie Sandoval about organizing from the inside out, and we'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, welcome back. I'm talking with Suzie Sandoval, who calls herself the Inner Peace Organizer. I just love that title. Yes. And I was mentioning earlier that I have a great story that kind of shows the subconscious nature of our need for things, etc., and what's really going on. And this happened years ago in one of my classes. I was talking about how everything is a mirror of what's going on inside of us. And I had like probably 30 different examples of it. And one of the examples that I used was, so even your house and your car and your possessions could be symbolic, or it could be showing you a reflection of something going on inside of you. And one of my students raised her hand and she says, I have to argue about that one because my house is perfect. You could eat off the floor. Everything is organized. I don't have any clutter. And I said, okay, well, maybe this one doesn't fit for you. Well, she came back the following week to class and she raised her hand again. And she says, I just have to tell you, you're right. And I said, okay, tell me. She said, well, I went home and yeah, everything is perfect and organized and clean, etc. But I opened my closet door and everything fell on my head. And I said, interesting. So what does that symbolize to you? She said, well, it's like me. I look fine on the outside, but on the inside, I'm a mess. And it was just so profound for her because, we have these ways of hiding our messiness, our inner messiness, and there it shows up somewhere in your life. So I just thought it was a perfect story for what you're talking about today, Suzie. So go ahead. We were going to comment on that.
Yeah. that just goes back to this being a self-witnessing, self-awareness opportunity. And even though we may not like what we see, maybe our first is defense. No, that's not me. There are times where when it comes to truth, maybe it takes a day or so to kind of let it settle in to be able to be more open. But in the moment, there can definitely be that defensiveness. You just reminded me of a tool that I would teach to my clients that had a lot of mental clutter, which most clients do. They've got that, they're stuck in that thinking mind. And it's something that I did. So, by the way, most of my teachings are exactly what helped me heal. So it's exactly why I would teach them. So one of them is I would listen to my client share their pains with clutter and disorganization. This client was in the office space. And she was in Orange County, worked for Susan B. Anthony, doing really, really valuable work. So it was wonderful to work with her. And her soul was like crying out to me. She's like, she has such a big heart. She loves what she does. Just says yes all the time when it really needs to be a no, because there weren't boundaries. And she didn't have enough time in her home life. So her home life was suffering. Her work was suffering because she wasn't able to keep up. And so that's where she brought me in. And it was fascinating because the reason why I say I'm an inner peace organizer, that shift, I used to just say I'm a professional organizer. I've had a gazillion names for myself, right? You just get more and more specific. But the times right now really call for inner peace. We talk about it. We use the word mentally, but I'm talking about embodiment, full chakra embodiment, fullness of inner peace. And that is because you've got to feel safe in your body. You've got to feel safe in your space. You've got to be able to relax. This sounds simple, but for people right now that have busy bodies and busy minds, and they're in hustle, they're in fear mode, trauma, their bodies are traumatized. It's not easy to get into a peaceful state of beingness. So I would constantly witness my client have actually the answers to her pains. I would literally be present and listening. And no matter what I reflected back, like literally just reflecting back what she said, there was a disconnect. She was disconnected from her own internal wisdom. And I knew that I needed to get out of the way. So I challenged her. And I said, I have a challenge for you. And this is so that you can witness the beauty of your own wisdom. And so I challenged her for 7 days, each day, to do a video diary message, to actually turn on the camera and video yourself when you're having a breakdown, when you are being challenged in some way. And I want you to be completely honest. Don't hold back. Just be honest. I have recommended this to so many clients, and in a very short period of time, like you just described, they have profound insights because we're so used to looking outward. Yeah, we look at mirrors, but we don't often talk in the mirrors. We're disconnected with how we're perceived. We think we're being perceived a different way, but we don't actually often have the tools where we go back and look at ourselves. So I started doing video diaries a long time ago because I got tired of the journaling and I had some really intense emotions. I'm like, I don't want to journal. I need something else. So I would do the video diaries and I would just have cry fest and ugly crying. And I would be so transparent and honest with myself because I knew, first of all, I felt like I had no one that could understand or that I could talk to or that I could share this level of transparency and authenticity. So knowing I could talk to a camera to kind of get it out. And then what I would do is then we would go and we would rewatch ourselves. And that process alone, I still use it to this day, and most of my clients do. And for clients, another tool is if you don't want to do the video, you can start off just doing the audio and just free talking. So again, it's like journaling, but you're just talking instead of writing. And there's a lot of clutter in that. But when you listen to yourself, there's also nuggets. There's nuggets of inspiration and wisdom, just like when you go back and you look at what you've pre-written or you've journaled. There's like these things that sparkle out. And so that's a tool I often recommend for people that I'm witnessing that there's a disconnection with them and their ability to listen to themselves, because that comes into the inner peace. The inner peace is a space that allows us to go inward. There can be distractions outward, but the ability is to come inward and to be able to find that inner sanctuary despite fear and challenges and distractions. It's not going in a cave and being inner peace. That's easy. Being inner peace in our modern world is really an essential ability to have in the new world that's being created.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, earlier you were saying that there are several questions that you ask your clients, and you talked about a couple of them. What are the other questions that you ask?
Well, the initial question is we come into the space, and when it comes to a physical space, we choose one space at a time to focus on. That's it. One space. And from that space, clients learn different methodologies that they can then apply to the other spaces. So one of the first things that we do is we stand typically in the entrance of a space where you can see the entire space. That's where I call your Zen spot. You can see the whole thing. And the first question I ask is, what is it that you see, and how does the space make you feel? And oftentimes, clients will become really emotional because when they, like, for example, one of my clients, she's in women leadership. She has like 3 businesses, very busy, very successful. And her office, when I had her stand in front, she's typically kind of a more masculine kind of energy, but we got her in a present. She was able to come into a present space and really look around, and she just started crying and becoming emotional, because basically when she actually looked at her space with presence, she realized that the space made her feel insignificant. Like, there's piles over here I have to do that I feel like I can't get to. There's this that I'm behind on in this project. So all that subconscious messaging that her space in her environment was telling her was that she's not good enough. And before she even starts her day and she walks in the office, she already feels defeated.
Wow.
This is often the message of our closet too. We look in our closet when things don't fit. There's shame. It's like, or things, whatever. If you don't love what you have in your closet, it can have messages of, you're not this, you're not that, you don't, just subconscious messages. You're too thin. You're not, this is too tight. This is lose weight. Just whatever these insecurities or whatever, they show up subliminally. And when you are present with your spaces on, what do I see right now and how am I feeling? It's a starting point of not only self-witnessing, but then self-witnessing and then witnessing the environment that we're surrounded by.
Wow. That's wonderful.
It gets really metaphysical.
Oh yeah. This is all very metaphysical. It definitely is. Yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot of self-awareness though to get to that point. So,
it's pretty, I teach, all of my teachings are again, there's things that I used in my journey. Typically they were survival. Now they're thrival. They work in a thriving way. But majority of my teachings are very simple. It's being consistent that is challenging, and staying focused. That's a lot of where I work with my clients, is to provide them a fresh perspective, to be able to stay focused, to be able to follow through, because, there's so much drive towards success, right? And that success is a formula. And if you follow it, you're going to get great results. The reason why most people don't end up getting the results of success is because something blocks them, some obstacle, then they get stuck. That's just like clutter and the success of creating a space that supports your optimized self. People get stuck in the process. So when they're stuck, we've got to create some space as to what is causing that stuckness. What's underneath that. So then it's not just about accountability. People have goodwill. Of course they want to, their intention is to follow through and be successful. They have good intentions, but there's also the reality of where meeting ourselves where we're at. Because a lot of us think we're something, but then we're like, when we actually go to follow through on what that vision is, it's like, oh, I'm here. I'm not as here as I thought, not as far as ahead as I thought. I'm here, and I need to make peace with that to be able to get there.
And so all of this corresponds with possessions. And I mean, I'm seeing it in terms of metaphysically, spiritually. You know, I talk a lot about deservingness, and there's a part of us that doesn't deserve success. But you take it in a different direction, that say your possessions are in some way hampering you. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, you know, one of the things I used to say is look at all of the things you have, like the physical things, and assign a minute to each of those things. Because on some level, they're taking up space and time. Even though you may not be conscious of them, on some level, your subconscious is aware of everything. And of course, we know the more you have, the more responsibility it is to be able to upkeep that and take care of it. So when we take care of our things take care of us. If we don't take care of our things, they can't take care of us. And again, everything having consciousness of it, there's kind of some sadness in that. Things want to serve us. But if we aren't holding them sacred, then we're missing that opportunity for that experience to be served.
Yeah. I'm thinking about my plants. I'm an indoor plant fanatic, shall we say. I've got so many plants, and they bring me so much joy, and I love taking care of them. And I get sad if they start, drooping or whatever. To me, it feels like it's bringing life into my house. We used to live in the South Bay, and I could grow all kinds of things outside, but none of them grow up here in the mountains. So I've kind of turned my plant fanaticism into having indoor plants. And I just love it. They bring, like I said, bring so much joy. So what about that kind of a taking care of our possessions attitude?
Yeah, so that's really coming into creating what I call a Zen space. Zen really, when you're creating a Zen space, it's bringing in the different elements, the earth elements, the water, the fire, the earth, right? The wind. So when you're bringing alive plants into your home, you're getting into more of that harmony we're talking about with the natural cycles. You're getting to see creation. Oftentimes, when we are in the human world, in the getting things done and being busy, we get off on that natural cycle. Maybe we're not resting enough. Maybe we're not taking enough breaks, drinking enough water. Something like a plant or watching a tree throughout the seasons will center us and remind us of that cyclical nature, and to be reminded that what is circadian rhythm within us. You're surrounding yourself with beauty. I'm hearing that your environment is, you've got plant life, which is aliveness.
Yeah.
In Feng Shui, dead plants aren't good. You want aliveness. You want life force energy. So yeah, that's really important. And of course, different plants for different things. You've got you could put eucalyptus in your shower for a wonderful, refreshing kind of essential oil experience. You can have particular plants, like you said, just figuring out which plants in which particular space would make the most sense for you. So it sounds like, you really have brought nature, beauty, and love into your environment. And it sounds like you do it naturally as well. You're naturally tuned to what brings you joy.
Yes, definitely. And plus they talk to me, I walk by and they're like, hey, you need to water me. You need to give me more light. And, they yell at me. So, we have this ongoing communication going on. So, yeah.
Ironically, if we would listen to our own bodies better,
Exactly.
because that's really, like you said, that's a reflection of, am I drinking enough? Am I resting enough? It's always a good reminder. Yeah. Because especially big-hearted, I don't even want to say women, because men do this too. If you're big-hearted, you're more apt to care about something outside of yourself and put that prioritize above you. But we know that we've got to prioritize ourselves. And then that then ripples out. That's another reason of inner peace is we're conditioned to be masculine, to just do first. And I had a real significant point in my business where I was studying the difference between doing and being, and realizing that the beingness needs to come first, that intention, and then the action. Yes. And that's why in our spaces, we create the intention first, and then the creativity and manifestations can come from that space. Rather than trying to go out there and get this and get this and get this.
Right.
Yeah.
Have, do, be instead of
being. Yeah.
So we're getting a little low on time, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I think one of the biggest issues we have as beings, and especially, dealing with the amount of students that I've dealt with in the 40 years I've been teaching, there's always a part of us that says, oh, I can't change, or change is hard, or what'll happen if I change? How do you deal with that particular issue with people? Because you are telling them you've got to change, you've got to change your environment, your outlook, your mindfulness, all of that. What do you do with that?
I would never tell someone they have to change. Okay. I think acceptance is actually the place to start with.
Yeah.
Really, acceptance is the place to start with. Again, it's got to be compassionate, creating a safe communication and experience for the client, because this is brings up such sensitivity. Yeah. And that really is the foundation. I used to, when I first started working with mamas, I would come in like I was Superwoman. Let me save the day. Let me make your life easy. Let me do 70% of the work, so you only have to do 30%. That did not work at all. I learned very quickly. And so I realized I naturally inspire. That I'm inspired by life. And I've learned that by being my truest self is inspiration. And so I'm not, when it comes to change, I'm really mindful with my words. That's why I use words like, I don't give homework to my clients. I give them challenges.
Yeah, good.
When we talk about home, we don't talk about chores. No one wants to do chores. We talk about contributions. When we talk about change, we talk about, this came up a lot. When we talk about organizing, we're not focusing on letting go. That's not the focal point. The focal point is, what are we creating space for, and why, and how is this going to benefit your life? Because once you have that vision, then it's much easier to let go. But if you're trying to focus on let go, that's where everyone gets stuck. They're in that head thinking mind. One of the beautiful benefits of Marie Kondo's work, Spark Joy, tidying up, all of that, was that it shifted people into their heart space. So instead of making a decision on what served them, they came into the heart space, which that gets into the spiritual clutter that I think we were talking about too. Yeah. Clutter, the 7 types of clutter on my free ebook on my website gets into mental clutter, emotional clutter, physical clutter. It teaches you what it is, how it accumulates, and tools that you can do on your own. And then at any time you can schedule a consultation with me if you get stuck during that process.
So what is your website? Tell our listeners.
So it's SuzieSandoval.com, www.SuzieSandoval, like sand like a beach, oval like a circle, SuzieSandoval.com. invaluable resources on there. I myself use it all the time. I've got, there's 7 Freedoms from Clutter, my ebook. If you want to go into working on the inner piece, the inner clutter, there's, you can start with the chakra systems. There's Discovering Your 7 Chakra Powers. And there's 7 Energies of Zen. So 7 Energies of Zen, using color and energy and intention into our spaces. That's what we bring into our space. So the 7 Energies of Zen are actually the remedy to clutter. Again, that's, you set the intention, and whatever doesn't align with that intention, it's like, oh gosh, I used to think about if I wanted this or not, and I couldn't figure it out. But when it's energy, you're just like, oh, it doesn't feel, I don't feel a need for it anymore. It's a different way to let it go.
Well, we've got to sign off. I so appreciate you being here. Again, it's Suzie Sandoval, and reach out to her. And I just want to end by saying, deserve to have your home and all environment reflect who you really are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.